Hello everyone, welcome to the video where I will show the mediums I use to color cold porcelain clay. When I first started with this clay journey, I experimented with a lot of different mediums and techniques. So I will show how different mediums give different results. I have a whole different video where I have explained how to make this cold porcelain clay. So you can watch that and keep the cold porcelain clay ready so that we can start coloring it. We can even store different frequently used colors for future use. I use both transparent and opaque clay in my work. So I usually make a part of my clay opaque at this point. For that, add white acrylic paint to the clay and knead it well. Here is a small but very helpful tip. When using acrylic paints to color the clay, apply a little hand cream or moisturizer to your hands. This prevents the paint from sticking to your skin and keeps your hands clean while kneading. I use different mediums to color my clay depending on the result I want. These include soft pastels, acrylic paints, and sometimes alcohol markers. Other options are watercolors, inks, or even food colors. Each of these gives a different result and affects the final look of the piece. In the beginning, it's best to choose one or two coloring mediums and observe how they affect the clay. For example, adding soft pastels to transparent clay gives a soft, semi transparent effect. But as soft pastels is a dry medium, the colored clay dries out pretty fast. When acrylic paint is added to transparent clay, it becomes more opaque, depending on the color and quantity of the paint used. But it can make the clay sticky as acrylic is a wet medium. By adjusting the amount of color and the opacity of the clay, you can control the final result. This is where the process becomes more advanced, and understanding these changes makes a big difference. If you plan to work with cold porcelain clay professionally, studying color and opacity in depth is very important. Now let's come back to the basics. To color the clay, you can create basic color saturates of red, yellow, blue, and brown, and then mix small amounts of these into plain clay to achieve your desired shade. Note down the proportions to get the perfect shade each time. Another method, and the one I personally use, is coloring the clay for each project. I keep my color sketches ready and mix only the amount of colored clay I need at that time. If you are using soft pastels, always scrape them into a fine powder and mix them into the clay gradually. When using acrylic paints, remember to apply hand cream before mixing, as I mentioned earlier. A very important tip here is to clean your hands every time you switch colors. Any leftover color on your fingertips can mix into the new color and ruin the shade you are trying to achieve. Alcohol based or water based markers usually give soft, subtle colors, so it's best to use them for coloring small quantities of clay. I almost always use this black brush pen to make the clay black. Black color is needed only to add small details, so I prefer to make it in small amounts whenever needed. I also have one easy method to color the clay. I use this method whenever I am making a prototype of a design and not for selling. I mix this lightweight clay with my homemade one so that I can work quickly without any hassle. But the weight and the quality of the clay changes even if you mix a small amount. So, I don't recommend this method to make pieces which you want to last longer. These were a few tips to color your homemade cold porcelain clay. I hope you found them useful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. You can also add any other tip you know which I may have missed. Thank you for watching till the end. I will see you in the next video.